In this series of videos, we're going to build an application with Express, and we're going to end up using modules that we're going to have to install that are not automatically installed with Node. So one of the modules that we're going to end up looking at is going to be something called Express. And we're going to end up installing these modules from NPM, which is a package manager, and a quick search. Very often, you're going to search for modules that you're looking for. We'll give you some information on how you end up using the module. So this is kind of a basic Express application. Let's talk a little bit about how we're going to get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make a directory, and I'm going to call this Express Demo, and I'm going to CD into it. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to make sure that I install the libraries that I need. I don't need to install them globally. They don't need to be used by all my projects, but I want them within this project. Right now, this project is empty. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do an npm init. And it's going to ask me a bunch of questions, but I'm going to just go with all the default answers by putting a flag here called Y, which means yes. And I'm going to hit enter. And if I end up opening this up, opening up my editor, I'll see that right off the bat, I've got this package.json file. And this is where we're going to end up putting all of our dependencies. We don't have any dependencies right now. There's a script here for tests, which we'll end up using later on. But right now, all this ended up doing was created this file. But what we're going to do is we're going to end up installing Express because we're going to need Express. We're going to need Express for this project. And what I want you to notice here is that I'm going to do npm I Express. That's going to install Express, but it's going to do one other thing here after it ends up getting it. So this is really nothing more than a JavaScript library. And if I end up now going back to my editor, I'll see that there's a change here. And it's telling me, hey, look, you just ended up installing Express. It actually did some other things too, which are kind of interesting. If I refresh this, I'll see that I have a Node Modules folder. And that Node Modules folder has really a bunch of packages, not just the Express package, but also, which is down here, but also all the other packages that Express ends up relying on. And it's got a more detailed version history in this package lock JSON, which you really don't have to worry about right now. The most important thing is that it ended up adding this Node Modules folder. Now, one of the things that I want to do is that once I have this set up, I want to do a Git init. So I want to start setting up Git. Now, one of the things that's going to happen here, if I look at my git.status, there's this Node Modules folder, and it's got a ton of stuff there. And the fact is, this is not my code. This is code that has been written by somebody else. I ended up getting all that code from an npm install of Express. So I don't want this Node Modules folder to be included in my Git repo. So I'm going to end up doing something, setting up what's called a Git Ignore file. It has to be named Git Ignore. And I'm going to touch this file, and I'm going to open it up in my editor. And I'm just going to put in this file, hey, look, if there's anything with Node Modules, I don't want you to include it. It's not mine. If anyone wants to get it, they can do an npm install. And if I go over here and I see git.status, I'll see that I'll have these three files, but not my Node Modules file. So let me actually commit this. I'm just going to say setup. And I could push this up to Git, but just realize that if someone ends up, you end up sharing your repo and someone ends up grabbing it, they're not going to get that Node Modules folder, which is fine. In fact, if I went over here, I could remove my Node Modules folder. Okay? It would disappear. In fact, if I do git.status, there's not even any change because that's not even included in Git. If I do an ls, I won't see that Node Modules folder. But if I just do an npm I or an npm install, that's what I is short for, it'll go up and it'll get me all the packages that I had before. And if I end up doing this, I'll see my Node Modules folder, and they'll be back to wherever they were before, and here they are. So one thing that's important right off the bat when you're setting up a Node application and you're installing things, you don't want to include your Node modules folder because again, that's not something that's not anything that you wrote. That's just a dependency of your application.